Welcome back to Lenz Comic Corner Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 1662 and Doubleshot number 1556. Now, both these two trays both feature Iron Man. Second one, you'll figure out the reason why for that one. First up, it is Avengers Resembled, Iron Man. This collects issues 83 through 89 of, I think it's 84 to 89 of Iron Man Volume 3. Yes, here's a fun fact for you about Iron Man. No Iron Man volume since this volume ended, it's ever lasted as long. You wanna know why? Restarts. Oh yes, restarts. That's the reason for this. Of course, I will explain what major story arc came out right after this one did. It's kind of odd that they did this. Okay, first up we have, now I should point out that at the time this book is coming out, they bring up in here, Iron Man is the Secretary of Defense. And apparently he's working for a senator. Which, last time I checked, that's not how it works. The Secretary of Defense reports directly to the President himself. Not to some senator. For the procedure is, the President has the authority to appoint people, but they have to receive approval from the U.S. Congress. That part is true. But as for the appointee, report record to a congressman, or at least a senator, is not true. I highly doubt they do. I mean, their boss is the president. So, the first couple stories in here involves Iron Man. Oh, by the way, this is when we're... oh, excuse me. This came out roughly in 2004. This, of course, was before Avengers Disassembled. Now, Disassembled in here, despite being called Disassembled tie-in issues, these issues take place before Avengers Disassembled. It's more like a prelude. It does not take place during it at all. There's one thing that mildly references in here, but mostly puts basically Iron Man do his own stuff. Now, the Avengers that want to appear in this issue are comprised of, get this, Scott Lang Ant-Man, I believe it was also Black Panther, and Falcon, and the Wasp. That was your lineup for the appearance of these issues. And also, apparently at this point in time, I kind of forgot this happened, because I was really disappointed. I did read a little bit after this. Apparently, Avengers Mansion was deemed sovereign territory. Which, okay. And also, apparently the sanitation department, aka people with garbage man, refused to pick up the garbage for the Avengers Mansion. It's a plot thread that's here for the first couple issues, and that's it. Oh, Henry Peter Geinrich is the country's liaison to the Avengers, despite the fact they work for the UN at this point. There's also various protesters in here, which these protesters do show up in the main book for Avengers, where it's like UN out of US. The whole thing with the conspiracy stuff. I don't know if that's based upon real life events. I highly doubt it. So mostly put, basically he's told by a senator, which of course Iron Man tells the senator he can trust the Avengers. Like apparently he doesn't trust Black Panther because he's a foreign ruler. Okay. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact he's a ruler of a foreign country. I think it's due to the fact the senator is probably a racist. He probably doesn't like the fact that Black Panther is black. And apparently, he can't tell about this weapon known as Arsenal Alpha, a weapon they've countered once before, back in the 70s, appeared in the annual for Avengers. And Iron Man had to keep this hush-hush from his own team. Iron Man had no choice in the matter. It was all done by this idiot senator who had to have interrupt an Avengers meeting. Like, he was in the middle of talking, and all of a sudden, oh crap, this idiot senator decided to interrupt him. And, don't you dare tell them about this weapon! And Iron Man's like, they're my friends, they can be trusted. Black Panther's for a rule, I don't give a damn, you can't tell them that. I have never heard of a U.S. senator talking this way. Like, the way that John Jackson Miller writes this idiot senator, like, I'm thinking, U.S. senators do not talk this way at all. I mean, I know a senator. I know I know a U.S. congressman represents my area in U.S. Congress. They do not talk this way at all. This is basically some bullcrap. This is basically a stereotype, basically, of how some people think politicians talk, even though that's probably not how they actually talk in person. So he goes to get this thing, goes, Black Panther follows him. And here's something that never is brought up before or after this. Gyrick activates the jammer system. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is this jammer system? Apparently, this thing blocks all outside communication to the outside world. Excuse me. And then, of course, the Alpha is brought to the Avengers Mansion. And then, of course, the Department of Homeland Security, not S.H.I.E.L.D., Homeland Security is brought in. And apparently, Carol Danvers, who at this point is operating as Warbird, comes to pick this up, and there's also SWAT people coming here too. I'm like, you do know this is private property. Yeah, I'm thinking reading this, why the heck is John Jackson Miller writing the authorities as complete buffoons and basically so pig-headed? And by the way, after this two-parter, Arsenal Alpha is never brought up again. And then we have the stuff dealing with the stuff that we have Iron Man supposedly acting drunk in front of the UN wearing his armor. Like, if Tony Stark was speaking from the UN, he would not wear his armor like this. Like, what he would do is that he would wear his regular suit, not be wearing the Iron Man suit. And then he starts activating his pulsar ray and pointing directly at the Latvian ambassador. Look up the Wakanda ambassador to knock it off. And get this, Tony Stark is not drunk. He says at this point he had not drank in years. And it later turns out that was actually something done by the Scarlet Witch who did that. That was in another book. Not built in here. Oh no, it's basically one and done and that's it. And then we have Tony Stark's girlfriend in this book, Remiko Fajui. She was pretty much introduced as she's the daughter of Tony Stark's business partner, one who basically bought Stark Industries when he was declared dead because of Heroes Reborn. Oh, John Dexter's not the only writer here. There's also he wrote the prologues. I think he wrote the first couple issues here. You also have Mark Rickus, and the artwork is done by Jorge Lucas, and the other artwork is done by Tony Harris and Scott Nolans. So then of course he goes on a date with his girlfriend, and there's this guy named Clarence Ward, which I believe the character pops up in this book here, and Tony Stark tries to get him to go away because he was actually in the middle of a date. This guy, Clarence Ward, is so rude to Tony Stark. Then later on, apparently Clarence Ward thought that Tony Stark was being rude, so he decided to steal an armor of his, attack his company, killing several board members, and then he murders Tony Stark's girlfriend and frames Iron Man for it. Then Iron Man puts on his armor. Well, basically, Tony puts on his Iron Man suit, beats the crap out of Clarence Ward, fuses the guy to his armor. Oh, and they also these guys wearing these Iron Man suits who apparently worked for Tony Stark because the whole thing was second defense stuff. And then, of course, Clarence is defeated, and then he's taken out by one of the security guards when he's used with armor, where he's shot in the head. And Clarence Ward is never seen again. It's never brought up again. Yeah, for stuff dealing with the whole Disassembled stuff, the only thing that basically dealt with anything related to Disassembled was Iron Man supposedly acting drunk from the UN. Aside from that, it's a series of odd stories. The final issue's artwork, oh my gosh. I don't know if this is done by Scott Nolans, but this artwork is pretty bad. I think it's Pat Lee who does the cover artwork. Yes. Let me check here. I want to be sure about this because this artwork is not that good. Okay, I don't think this is Scott Nolan's doing this artwork. I don't think so. Oh, it is. But it doesn't look very good. I know Scott Nolan's artwork. This artwork is not that good. Oh, and the numbering for these issues, it's Iron Man 429 to 434. Oh, and Pat Lee does pretty much all of the artwork. All the cover artwork. There's also appearance here by the Mandarin. And, yeah, in the epilogue. And I'm thinking, Mandarin has never dressed this way before. This apparently is the Mandarin. And look at this guy like, that's not the Mandarin. Mandarin is not dressed this way at all. And it turns out, well, technically it isn't a Mandarin. It's actually a Mandarin's son. Tomagun. Yes. And for him, after this book, he appears in Supervillain Team Up Modoc's 11. He appeared into the Mandarin. And he was a featured character in Agents of Atlas Volume 2. Appeared in 500.1, and that was it for him. Yes, the son of the Mandarin, but not the actual Mandarin. Oh no. Ramikiko Fujiwara, a character who was created by Kurt Busiek and Sean Chen, is killed off here. Yes, this guy, Clarence Ward, by far one of the most useless Iron Man villains I have ever seen. You might be asking, has this guy ever appeared into the comics? No, as far as I can tell, he never has. I would say he was used as a little bit of basis for Adrian Killian as someone who knew Tony Stark for years prior. I say we use a little bit of information for that, but yes. Some good stuff, some bad stuff in here. I would probably say that the writing here is actually pretty good for Iron Man per se. But man, some of the other characters are not written too well in here at all. For a Titan Disassembled, it has nothing to do with Disassembled at all. Nope. And the whole thing with Clarence Ward, or like he kills Tony Stark's girlfriend from Jigo, who was a great character. If you read this volume, she is an absolute fantastic character. Tony Stark had a great relationship with her. And then kill her off just like this. Just because, it's the end of the volume. I'm sure a lot of people, when they read this book, they were really ticked off at Marvel for doing this. For killing off a great character like Rumiko. She gets killed by a repulsor blast, of all things. Oh, by the way, at least the writer is decent enough to have Tony Stark have a memorial scene for her. Too bad we can't have a Han Solo funeral service in The Last Jedi, and yet we could have it in the novel adaptation. We couldn't have it in the movie because the director Rian Johnson didn't want to put it in the damn movie. But that's something else altogether. The artwork is here pretty good, except for the last issue. I have nothing against Scott Nolan's, but this artwork is not that good. Oh my gosh. Artwork looks pretty bad. I mean, look at this artwork. This artwork is terrible. Like, my gosh. Scott Nolan's has done better artwork than this. This is probably his worst I have ever seen. Yes. I'm going to give this book a 8.5 out of 10. Yes, an Iron Man book receiving that low of a rating because this one had a good start to it. Love the start of Kurt Busiek did for it, and then you'd come with this, and like, what the heck is this? It feels like basically a bunch of nonsense. You have characters written to be out of character. The only person written to be completing character is Iron Man. Yes. Oh, in case you're curious though, It was John Jackson Miller who basically made Tony Stark Iron Man, not Iron Man, Secretary of Defense. Because I believe it was 76, I believe it was, because it was toward the end of this run when they have Tony Stark become... I think it was, 73, I think it was. Yeah, it was John Jackson Miller. He had him become the new Secretary of Defense. Yeah, and it's only around here just for the last year of the book. And that is pretty much it. Yeah. Oh, in case you're wondering, though, what happened to Iron Man after this? The critically acclaimed Iron Man Extremis arc came right after this one did. Oh, yeah, it did. Yeah, I'd say within, like... Let's see. This came out in... What's the cover date? This probably came out in... October 2004, and like within like 1 month we have a brand new story arc, Extremis, which this story arc is still beloved by I don't remember exactly how my friend Edgar feels about this particular arc, but yeah, that was the next major story that came right after this one, was that particular run. Yeah, Iron Man Volume 4 was really good, not really bad issue the whole batch. And that run managed to last from 2004 to I think it was like 2008, I think it was. Oh, it was 2007. No, it was... Yeah, it was 2008. Actually, it was 2009. Yeah, early 2009. But I've already covered that volume already. So, as of right now, for issues-wise, I've covered now from 429 to present, per se. But basically, I'm into 2004 right now when it comes to Iron Man. No, I've not gotten the thing done yet, but... It's interesting, though, Pat Lee did all the cover for this one. He's not credited in this book. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like... He only does, like, cover artwork for a couple of the covers, but here's the thing. Does this trade credit him for that? Nope. I can clearly tell that it's Pat Lee's artwork. Okay, that's not his artwork. But, this is right here. That's Pat Lee's artwork. But here's the strange thing, though. Does this book credit him as a cover artist? No, it doesn't. Pat Lee is not brought up in this trade at all for some strange reason. I'm not really sure why. I was surprised this book actually was in good condition as it was. This book came out almost 20 years ago, and it's in good condition. Alright, next up, we're jumping ahead 4 years later to New Warriors, Secret Invasion. This is the third and last trade to collect issues from this very volume, Volume 4. Now you're probably thinking, Nick, why didn't you review the first two trades? This first one I've actually found. And as for the cover artwork here, this is inspired by Kenny X100. Now, there's a couple different stories in this one. This covers issues 14 to 20 of New Warriors, Volume 4. The first few issues in here deal with the Secret Invasion tie-in, where you have New Warriors dealing with the Skrulls. It's basically what they were up to during Secret Invasion. And of course, you have Night Thrasher, who's actually the second Night Thrasher at this point, not the original one. The original one died in Civil War 1. Where he basically theorized, was a Skrull who maybe took his place, that he's been actually dead. And I think it was... one of the other people did confirm the fact he is definitely dead. They confirmed him, Nemratita, and Microbe are all dead. They had to actually show their bodies, which is interesting. And also, they had a fight with some of the members who powered the original New Warriors, who at this point called themselves Counterforce. But then after this book wrapped up, they turned into New Warriors, and then thanks to the events of Dark Reign, they changed name to Divinity of Resistance, and then after the events of Siege, that group disbanded. So what this group decided to do, go back in time to try to prevent the events of Civil War 1, the first issue. And instead they go to the future, where it's a very strange future where Original Thrasher is alive, and he's wearing Iron Man's armor, if he was a believer. And there's Night Thrasher all around. I'm thinking, who is this Night Thrasher if the original Night Thrasher is an Iron Man? It's Tony Stark in the Night Thrasher suit. Also, just point out some of the members of this group. Now, aside from Night Thrasher, there is no other person associated with the original New Warriors part of this group. This group is comprised of Jubilee, who's called Wanderer in this group, along with Chamber. He basically, that's him right there. That's Chamber when he was changed to Apocalypse look. I believe it was also Beak and Angel part of the group too. Let's see if I get this right here. Because members were at this point for this group basically was Chamber, who's known as Decimal at this point. Jubilee was Wanderer. Vince Stewart. There's also Ripcord, who actually was a member of the original New Warriors. And Skybolt, who was originally one of the... Oh, I remember this guy. He was part of Kid Omega's crew for the Assault on Xavier's. He actually gets killed off during these issues. Yeah, he gets killed off. Ripcord is actually from the original New Warriors book. No, actually, no, it's not her. It's Stacy X. I thought it was her, somebody else. Yeah, she's part of this group, and then she does something else afterwards. Let's see. You have Sophia, who is the former Wind Dancer. Yeah, she actually was part of this group too. She was calling herself Reconnaissance. Yeah, some of the members of this group, Blackwing, that's actually Beak. Tempest, that's actually Angel. Phaser. He is a character who was also part of Kid Omega's crew. Yeah, it's interesting, though, that a lot of members of Kid Omega's crew basically joined. Basically you have... I don't think this one did it. Oh, she did. Yeah, it's kind of weird, though. Apparently the writer of this book, Kevin Grush, basically recruited a lot of people who were associated with the Omega crew, the Omega gang, plus Jubilee, Beak, and Angel. There's also this new character named Grace. Yeah, she made her first appearance in this very book. And after this book wrapped up, she was never seen again. Yeah. Yeah, a few new characters, but also there's the Ninth Thrasher here, his name is Darryl Taylor, who's the brother of the original one. Yeah, and he was practically the only thing connecting this group to the original New Warriors. Was this one character? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they say go to this future. Oh, by the way, the Counterforce do accept them as New Warriors at this point in time until this group disbands. Then after dealing with the whole thing trying to prevent, Night Thrasher's death, and they go to the future, and yeah, and it's basically apparently that the original Night Thrasher was took the company, the Taylor Foundation, the Taylor Company, and just bought out Tony Stark and had him wear his armor. At the place where Iron Man suits, it became basically a totalitarian state. Eventually, this Iron Man is killed off in here, and of course, this other Night Thrasher. When the current Night Thrasher claims him, he's not his brother, and then he gets killed off, and then they all go back to present where the group disbands. Yep, they disband. And you're thinking, really? They disband? Yes, they do. In the final issue, the group breaks up. And then, of course, Counterforce becomes basically New Warriors. Mm-hmm. There's also Lady Beverly Sykes in this book, too. Yeah, she basically hunted about this whole book. And here's the weird thing, though. After this book, she popped up once after this. An issue of Jim Zeb's New Warriors. Thunderbolts. Where she's now an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But that was the most recent thing they did with her. But what happened to the other characters? Well, Jubilee became a vampire not long after this. Yes. As in the case of Sophia, she's basically got her... She was the power for a while, then she became a... She just didn't do very much after this one. Beak and Angel, they just did their own things afterwards. Let's see. Tempest, yeah, they later popped up on the pages of Vengeance, was a miniseries done by, I think it was done by the same person. No, it's done by Joe Casey. Yeah. But it is very interesting, though, the fact that a lot of people didn't do very much after this one. Chamber, of course, went back to being, well, Chamber, he got his powers back. Yeah, it was thanks to the events of Age of X, got his powers back. Yep. So, it's weird, though, that this group of New Warriors basically is not well talked about when it comes to people who are fans of New Warriors. I think this was an interesting book per se, but I need to review the other stuff first to get my full fill. Even though I kind of discussed this group already, thanks to my comic book history of this group, for this group, and I really wanted to review more of this group, the other two trades. I'm gonna give this book a 9 out of 10. It's definitely better than the Iron Man Assembled book. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of weird though. And in case you're curious though, did the writer of this book ever write anything else besides this book? Well, yes, he did. Aside from writing New Warriors, he wrote an issue of Spider-Man Family, a couple issues of Spider-Man Family, a What If issue, an issue of Young Avengers Presents. He wrote Adam, Legends of Blue Marvel. This was basically the Blue Marvel character. Another What If, an issue of Age of Heroes, Spider-Man vs. Vampires, Favorites of Homefront, and Spider-Man 7.5, and that has been it. Aside from reviewing these issues, the only thing else I have reviewed from him was actually 700.5. And there's also the issue of Breaking the Marvel Comics tomorrow way. He wrote a story for that. But he hasn't really done all that much at all. But technically, you could thank him for the creation of the Blue Marvel, who is still around to this very day. So you can thank him for that. For creating this really cool character. Yep. Which the most recent thing he did with that he showed up in was actually in the pages of the short-lived Doctor Doom ongoing series. Yep, that was his most recent thing he did, was pop up in Doctor Doom. Yeah. But in the case of Night Thrasher himself, he would eventually return after this. Oh yeah, it would take him his sweet time. Yes. Night Thrasher himself, pretty much as soon as this group disbanded, he joined Counterforce. He was part of that group until the group disbanded. Yeah. Which was in the final issue of Avengers Initiative. And then he popped up in Nova, and I think he popped up also for... I think he did pop up for the following volume for because they had Night Thrasher join the group. I don't think it was him. Because I think I remember him did show up in the final issue, where apparently he was kind of added to the group. Yes. I think he was. Or maybe in the original Night Thrasher, who somehow is now alive. Yeah. Thanks, Content Champions. I'll review that in the future. Yep. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my very next video, which is going to be Attack on Titan. Okay? Next video. Bye.